Happy Friday. Jen Wilson here from Convergence Coaching with my good friend Amy Vetter. Hey, Amy.
Hello.
How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good.
Happy
Uh,
Friday.
yeah, happy Friday. Happy Friday in August, and a lot of kids going back to school. And I don't know. I'm sad about that because I'm not ready for summer to end. I
I,
refuse
I
to
feel like
accept
it's
that.
just disappeared
I know.
this year.
I refuse to accept it though. I feel August is summer. It certainly is on the equinox side of life, but I'm refusing to say that we're headed, into fall or whatever. Not yet. But anyway, we're Amy and I were talking ahead of this. We like to process challenges, issues, opportunities, cool ideas inside the profession, and we were talking about, in particular, client accounting practices, but kind of more broadly, it led us to a discussion of strategy
Mhm.
and KPIs and measures. And so we wanted to talk about that. And Amy, I'm going to ask you to do that while I close my door and try to keep my dog from barking.
As usual, we are off the cuff on Fridays. So, this is just the way behind the scenes it works out. So this topic is really important because I think that a lot of firms and businesses, this isn't just accounting firms, this is business owners, leaders in general, have a lot of great ideas and put a lot of people toward going, not necessarily giving the time, the plan, and the investment that they need to be successful. And it's really important that if you've got too much on your plate as a partner, as a leader, as an owner, and you also have so many strategies that you want to accomplish at the same time, but you do not have time to support it, to give investment for it, to give time to it, then that is the time that you step back, pause, and say, what are we going to stop doing? Because the problem is that when you then put all these people out on these strategies, they're spinning their wheels, their team is getting burned out, and they don't have the investment or support in order to make sure that they can be successful. And no one likes showing up to their job every day feeling like they can't control the outcome. Everyone has good intention, right? Like when people quit, a lot of times there were a year, months, 2 years of time that you could have done something about it and didn't, and just thought they'll just take care of it. But they're pushing up against the current and they can't push past it if you're not there. And I've always looked at leadership as really taking away the barriers for people that work for me so that they have what they need in order to do what they do. So, whatever I have to do to shed those barriers is the most important part of my job so that they can be successful and the people that work for them can be successful. And so we're just seeing too many times, and Jen and I both, we've been out all summer with firms and having lots and lots of discussions with staff and managers and people trying so hard, but not having the support that they need or the openness to listen that sometimes you have to slow down before you speed up. And if you don't slow down, then it's just a catastrophe because all it does is keep perpetuating. You keep getting more and more behind, and there's not any time to make sure that you can get over the top of it. And then people are complaining it's not profitable or it's this or that, or they keep adding on top of it. And, those people can't be successful.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of, I want to start sort of at the 40,000 foot level. The way I think about this is like, we have to realize that in order to drive change in our firms, in order to create and innovate and to start up entrepreneurial practices like a client accounting practice or like a new industry group, in order for us to open up a new market, a geography that we want to go into, whatever it might be, we have to invest. There's an investment required. And in order for us to solve our capacity problem inside our firms, we're going to have to invest. And we also have to commit to try something new, because we are caught as a profession in a crazy spiral called I'm still trying the same old stuff and it doesn't work the way it used to. And that's just ridiculous. We need to try new things. And one of those new things is make investments in non-billable time for people, leadership in particular, that are supposed to lead your initiatives. We have to do it. We just have to make the investment. And non-billable time doesn't mean unvaluable time. It means super valuable time, because it's time spent in strategy, it's time spent in business development, it's time spent in marketing for figuring out innovative new packaged pricing and bill ahead methods and ways to raise fees and conduct initiatives that will drive change, firing clients. All of those things are crucial non-billable activities, and we're not giving our people any space. Plus, that's all the market-facing stuff. We're not giving them time to develop their people. We're not giving them time to go out and recruit the right people. We're not giving them time to train those people so they can delegate. Instead, what's happening is I'll just use client accounting because that's what got us on this. We take a client accounting leader and we still measure them off of how billable are they, and how, and they carry a big client load, and they're trying to manage staff, and they're trying to manage organizational development, and they're trying to manage marketing and selling, but they have a client load. And if they don't have a client load, then at the partner table, they're kind of a loser. And so they're pulled in all these directions and super frustrated. When you said, Amy, they quit, and you probably had a year or two where you were wearing them out before they quit. And all I could think of was, most of the people that I know that are in leadership that leave a firm and go somewhere else leave with their heart broken. Mm-hmm. They leave heartbroken because they believed in what they were doing. They loved their team. They loved the possibility, but they were unsupported. And we used old school KPIs, like how much billable time do you have, and how much book under management are you carrying? And we used old school measures instead of new KPIs, and it wears them out. And we're not allocating and investing.
Yeah, and over, I feel this pleading from leaders to want to do the right thing for their practices, and they just can't. They are just not given the budget to do the type of strategy and planning that they need. They're not given the budget to hire the type of resources that they need. And, here's the thing, that many of them talk about how their staff is getting burned out because there's not, especially if we talk about CAS, there isn't really a downtime. It goes year round. And there's busier than busy times, but it's a year-round practice. And if I can't step back and plan and do it the right way, the problem is that we have people that get burned out and leave, and then no one can handle the work. And so it is really, really important that we're listening to the people that we put in charge to lead and allocating budget and time to them of what they need to make sure that they can keep the business going. And, evaluating them on utilization and realization is just not an applicable measurement of that practice. And what often gets overlooked is the fact that practice ends up increasing client value for the total firm because you have the practice. And if you aren't focused on that, if you're not focused on how to really make them so successful, you're actually hurting the entire firm, because there's so many missed opportunities, because those people are in with that client all the time throughout the year. It's not just a couple touch points. And so there's all this opportunity to drive in other service lines and other things that that client needs because of having that relationship. So it's really important to think about it differently and focus on it. It is one of the most rapid growing areas of the profession. But instead, and we've talked about this before, where selfish interest comes in and we start holding on to a book of business rather than thinking about the firm in total and the opportunity and the possibility when you put the right investment into this practice. And so I'm just, it gets really hard being in our shoes because it's so common. It's not just one firm we talk to. It's so many firms where we are talking to the management level, the leaders that are put in charge of it. And maybe there's one partner in charge of it in a multi-partner firm. And it's just not given the right opportunity to really expand its wings and to grow and to be given time to reset. So when you start these practices, a lot of times you don't know what it's going to be, right? Because when you start it, many practices started in the old write-up, and then they said that is going to be what CAS is now. And then as they get into it, they realize they need to elevate the skill set. They need to elevate the work that they do. They need to be supported to not take on certain clients that don't fit into the model of that practice and be supported by the partnership to not take on those clients that aren't going to be profitable. And it really, when you think about the total firm and when we work with the total partners, client calling is like the hardest thing for people to do because they have an attachment from a heart space versus a business space. And so it's the same thing when we are referring in clients. If it doesn't fit a persona, why keep sending a client that we actually probably shouldn't be working for? Or a lot of times it's like, well, maybe one day, if we're with them long enough, there's going to be this or that. We can't work on maybes when we're being evaluated on the success of a service line or a practice. And it goes to the same thing of like not keeping those clients. If no one wants it referred to them, why are we keeping this client in the firm in total? So all of it needs to be working together to make sure that we're doing the things to generate the most value that we can in our businesses and for our client. Because if we have too many clients and they're not value creating in our business, they're not value creating, period. we can't get profitability or a return on investment of working with those clients as well.
Yeah. I mean, so much in there, Amy. Dedicate a practice leader to client accounting. It's the fastest growing space. If you're going to grow the practice, the person has to be dedicated. If they're not dedicated full time and they're still going to have some client service load, it can't be more than 25, 30%, folks. It just can't be. They can't serve the client and build the practice. It's just not going to happen. It won't have the potential that it needs to be. Recognize you can't do it the way you've always done anything else. It's an entrepreneurial effort and it's priced differently. It's packaged differently. The ideal target client is different. And that's what you were alluding to there. We can't just take these clients on just because a partner wants you to. And I wish that we didn't fire clients only because they were in our heart space. I wish we were that altruistic and loving. I think we don't fire clients because it's like in our book of business and we like to wield that thing with power. And we think somehow it directly goes to our comp and directly goes to our retirement benefits. And so we're not going to fire anything. But, our entrepreneurial practice leaders, they just need more support and not support like I'm behind you. That's nice to hear. And I know a lot of them do hear that. And they do hear from the partner group, yes, we want this practice. So they've been affirmed, but they're not getting support where it matters. And that is spend some money on operational and administrative resources to support those folks. Let go of this billable hour requirement that you have on certain leaders of your entrepreneurial initiatives. Same, by the way, I run into audit and tax practices that have like 60 people in the practice, and I'm managing the whole practice, but I still have to carry a book of business, and I'm still trying to manage a, $1.5 million client base, and they're calling that part-time so I can run the tax department or something. That's crazy. We can't be doing that to our leaders, because it wears them out, and there's so much potential to automate, so much potential to elevate the skills of the people we have, to do more advisory work for our clients, to raise fees and price more intelligently and bill and collect faster. If you let your leaders focus on those things, they would crush it. But instead, they're chasing, some old measures and some old ways of being managed. And it breaks our hearts to watch it. So it does, doesn't it? I mean,
it totally does, because we are the people that hear. They're not necessarily. They might be saying it in ways to you as their manager or partner, but they're not really telling you how frustrated or tired or sad they are that no one's listening to them, no one's respecting what they see on a day-to-day basis or what they think needs to happen. And what I would like to do is talk about what we've seen really good. And as far as best practices of making sure that you can support these practices if you aren't today, I am seeing that there was a firm that I recently talked to where they allowed the practice to not take any new clients for 60 days. And I've done this with other consulting clients, because if you're going to put a plan in place and a strategy and reset foundationally, if you keep adding on to the top, there's no way to get those things done and keep everyone focused. And what it does is tell a message to the team that you do care, that you're not trying to overwhelm them, and you're trying to reset to make sure that you're running this in the way that you do. Because the opportunity in this practice to truly create work-life balance, it's there if you do it the right way. If you make sure that the right foundation is set in place and you're allowing your leaders to properly plan. But I think, that's a really important thing. The other thing that I've seen is taking write-up work and making a separate group as part of the tax group for write-up. That is not considered client advisory or advisory services, period, right? So really important to think about, if that's just to support the tax team to do a tax return, then that can go in a separate group, be measured in a different way, and not bring down the measurements and the KPIs that the CAS group is trying to hit as well.
Either that or outsource it to a local bookkeeping company, that already is transactional and doing that sort of work, and not trying to have our CAS group sort of straddle two kinds of services. I agree with that 100%. And I tell people all the time, Amy, take the pressure off your CAS leader that they're going to turn the old practice into the new practice. Don't expect that. They're not going to. The old practice was paying a really low rate per hour, and they were, mostly after the fact. And CAS is none of those things. It's high value, it's advisory, it's packaged services, and usually a very high rate per month, because we're going to provide advice. We're going to provide advice around those financial statements. We're going to provide insights. We're going to ask questions of the clients to try to help them run a better business or a better organization. And there's all kinds of value to add in helping the clients get better business processes and a whole bunch of other things. And so instead of holding on to that prep work, it's got to move somewhere. I agree with that. The other thing that we do see, as important is that we need a written plan, and we need the top 3 priorities for these startup initiatives or these ongoing growth initiatives where we're focused as a firm and we're going to invest. What are the top 3 priorities? And like you said, sometimes it requires that we stop selling new business. Sometimes it requires that we undertake a trimming initiative and fire some clients to make room. Sometimes it's an automation initiative. Sometimes we're going to bulk load staff, a certain number of staff, and orient them all at once. And because training new staff and shepherding them and managing them is a huge undertaking. And, we have what we call an apprenticeship model, which is somehow that person's supposed to stand around and follow us at our elbow and magically become really good at the work. And that's not how it takes a lot of investment, a lot of teaching, a lot of explaining, a lot of going through review comments and having them do rework. And so sometimes we just have to say, what will you do with this investment time? And being really clear what the top 3 priorities are, what the proactive activities will be, and then we can feel good about making those investments. And we're not trying to have you write a blank check and say, here, just be non-billable and, hope it turns out. You've got to have a strategy, and you have to have top 3 priorities and return a report against those priorities as well.
Yeah, and actively work on it. So it isn't just setting it and walking it away, but actively checking in, making adjustments, redoing it again the next year, 6 months, because it moves rapidly, but really important.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got
the only other thing. Hang on one second. I've got one more idea, and that is that I love it in a mid-sized to smaller firm where the CAS leader reports directly to the managing partner. Putting that person down in the business and not having a regular meeting with somebody who can help those roadblocks that you talked about in leadership and help ease their pain. And when they don't have that kind of an advocate, it's a problem. So as high up in leadership as we can have them reporting, the better.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. So that's it for Friday. Ideas and also things to, make your CAS leader and any other service line leader really more successful. And for us to try to figure out how to help these frustrated people. Amy and I are not talking about this because we made it up. We're talking about it because these people are breaking our hearts with their sad stories. And, so go see your practice leaders, all of your service line leaders, go see them and say, how are you doing? How can I help you? How can I help you? It's such an easy question. And put your palms up and say, just tell me. Don't hold anything back. How can I help you? I want to hear it. And maybe not on a Friday afternoon. Maybe you do that Monday morning, but please do it. It'll make such a big difference. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. Thank you, Amy, so much for making the time to hang out with me. And we're looking forward to our next installment of Leadership Lunch Chat. Watch for that date and time in social media. See you all.
Bye-bye.